I woke up with a start, drenched in sweat, my heart racing as if it were about to leap out of my chest. Another nightmare had plagued my sleep, but this one felt different. It felt real, too real. Shaking off the remnants of the dream, I tried to push the unsettling feeling away. After all, it was just a dream, right? As I went about my day, I couldn't shake the eerie sensation that someone was watching me. Every now and then, I would catch a glimpse of a figure out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned to look, there was no one there. I brushed it off as my imagination playing tricks on me. That was until I found a note slipped under my apartment door that evening. The note was written in a handwriting that I didn't recognize, yet it was oddly familiar. It simply said, "I see you." The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end as a chill ran down my spine. Someone was watching me, someone who knew where I lived. Panic set in, and I immediately called the police, but they couldn't do much without any concrete evidence. From that moment on, my life turned into a living nightmare. I became hyper-aware of my surroundings, constantly on edge. The feeling of being watched intensified, and the glimpses of the mysterious figure became more frequent. They were always just out of reach, disappearing into the shadows before I could catch them. The stalker seemed to revel in the fear they instilled in me, playing a cat-and-mouse game, toying with my sanity. I started receiving more notes, each one more chilling than the last. They described in disturbing detail my daily routines, my private moments, things that no one should know. It was as if the stalker had infiltrated every aspect of my life, leaving me feeling violated and utterly helpless. I installed security cameras, changed my locks, and even moved to a different apartment, but the stalking continued unabated. The police assigned a detective to my case, but despite their best efforts, they couldn't catch the stalker. Every lead turned into a dead end, every suspect proved innocent. It was as if the stalker knew exactly how to stay one step ahead, always elusive, always watching. The detective assured me they would do everything they could to protect me, but deep down, I knew I was on my own. Sleep became a luxury I could no longer afford. The nightmares returned, each one more vivid and terrifying than the last. I would wake up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, only to find a note waiting for me on my nightstand. The stalker was infiltrating not just my waking life but my dreams as well. There was no escape. As the days turned into weeks and then months, the stalking intensified. The stalker started leaving disturbing gifts outside my door, a lock of hair, a photograph of me sleeping, a blood-stained knife. Each item was like a sick trophy, a reminder that they were always watching, always lurking in the shadows. The constant fear and paranoia took a toll on my sanity. I could no longer trust anyone, always suspecting that they might be the stalker. Friends and family became distant, unable to understand the terror that consumed me. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and I questioned my own sanity. One fateful night, as I lay in bed, wide-eyed and terrified, I heard a noise coming from the living room. I mustered all the courage I had left and slowly made my way toward the sound. As I turned the corner, I saw a figure standing in the darkness, their eyes gleaming with malicious intent. It was the stalker. With a surge of adrenaline, I lunged at them, knocking them to the ground. The struggle was fierce, but I fought with every ounce of strength I had left. In the chaos, I managed to grab the stalker's mask, and as I tore it off, I came face to face with a stranger, a face I had never seen before. The police arrived shortly after, having been alerted by a neighbor who heard the commotion. They arrested the stalker, but the damage was already done. The nightmare had taken its toll on my mind, and I was left scarred, haunted by the memories of the stalking. Even now, years later, I still find myself looking over my shoulder, expecting to see that familiar figure lurking in the shadows. The stalker may be behind bars, but their presence lingers, a constant reminder that evil can exist in the most unexpected places. I have learned the hard way that safety is an illusion, and sometimes the monsters are real. Months turned into years, but the nightmare of the stalking continued to haunt me. Despite the stalker being apprehended and imprisoned, their presence lingered like a malevolent ghost. The memories of the torment inflicted upon me remained etched in my mind, each moment replaying in vivid detail. The trial was a harrowing experience. As I sat in the courtroom, facing my tormentor, the weight of their actions bore down on me. Their eyes, filled with unadulterated hatred and obsession, seemed to pierce through my very soul. The evidence against them was overwhelming, from the notes and photographs to the chilling gifts that were meticulously catalogued by the prosecution. The stalker was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, yet the relief I expected to feel never arrived. It was as if their imprisonment couldn't contain the terror they had unleashed. The fear of their return persisted, an ever-present shadow that followed me wherever I went. In an attempt to rebuild my life, I sought solace in therapy. The counselor, Dr. Roberts, was a compassionate soul who provided a safe space for me to share my deepest fears and anxieties. We delved into the darkest recesses of my mind, untangling the threads of trauma left behind by the stalker's relentless pursuit. As time passed, the therapy sessions began to yield results. I developed coping mechanisms to deal with my paranoia and fear. The nightmares grew less frequent, and the constant feeling of being watched gradually subsided. It seemed like a glimmer of normalcy was finally within reach. However, just as I dared to hope that I could move forward, the familiar signs of the stalker's presence resurfaced. At first, it was subtle, a photograph left on my doorstep, a note slipped under my office door. The details were eerily reminiscent of the past, leaving no doubt that the nightmare was far from over. I contacted the police, but their initial investigation yielded no concrete leads. The stalker seemed to have perfected their craft, leaving no trace of their presence. The detective assigned to my case, Detective Harris, assured me they would do everything in their power to protect me, but his words held little comfort. The stalking intensified once again, escalating into a series of unnerving incidents. My car was tampered with, the brakes cut, and strange packages arrived at my doorstep containing macabre contents: a dead bird, a severed finger, a photograph of me sleeping. Each package sent shivers down my spine, a cruel reminder of the stalker's obsession. Detective Harris recommended I go into hiding, but I couldn't bear the thought of uprooting my life once more. Instead, I fortified my home with the latest security measures, transforming it into a fortress of sorts. Panic buttons, surveillance cameras, and reinforced doors became my only defense against the relentless stalker. Sleep once again became elusive, a distant luxury I could no longer afford. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind against the window sent my heart racing. The lines between dreams and reality blurred as nightmares intertwined with waking life. The stalker's presence permeated every aspect of my existence. The police investigation seemed to hit a dead end. Detective Harris, frustrated by the lack of progress, pored over every piece of evidence, every detail, searching for a clue. Meanwhile, I remained trapped in a prison of fear, my life revolving around constant vigilance and paranoia. One evening, as darkness blanketed the city, I received an anonymous phone call. A distorted voice whispered chilling threats, promising a gruesome fate. My blood turned to ice as I realized the stalker was closer than ever. They were no longer content with mere surveillance, they wanted to strike fear into the core of my being. Determined to take control of my life, I made a decision. I would no longer be the hunted, I would become the hunter. With Detective Harris's reluctant support, we devised a plan to draw the stalker out of hiding. I became the bait, willingly exposing myself to danger, desperate for the chance to end this nightmare once and for all. Undercover officers were stationed in strategic locations, ready to apprehend the stalker as soon as they revealed themselves. I was wired with surveillance equipment, and every movement I made was monitored closely. The plan was risky, but it offered a glimmer of hope, a chance to reclaim my life from the clutches of fear. As the night wore on, the tension in the air grew palpable. I walked through dimly lit streets, my senses heightened, acutely aware of every shadow, every sound. The stalker's presence loomed like a phantom, their unseen eyes fixated on me, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Then, out of the darkness, a figure emerged. It was the stalker, their face hidden beneath a familiar mask. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I confronted them, determined not to let fear dictate my actions. But before I could react, a shot rang out, echoing through the night. In the chaos that ensued, Time seemed to slow down. The stalker fell to the ground, their mask slipping off, revealing a face that was shockingly familiar. It was Detective Harris. A mixture of confusion and betrayal consumed me as I realized the person I had trusted, the person assigned to protect me, was the very one responsible for the torment that had consumed my life. The truth unraveled like a twisted tapestry. Detective Harris had orchestrated the entire stalking, manipulating the evidence and orchestrating the events to fuel my paranoia. The obsession had consumed him, blurring the line between duty and derangement. It was a sick game, a perverse form of psychological torture. As Detective Harris lay on the ground, gasping for breath, he whispered one last chilling message: "You were never safe. I will always be watching." With those words, he succumbed to his wounds, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and shattered trust. The aftermath of the revelation left me shattered, questioning the very fabric of my reality. The trauma inflicted upon me was not the work of a stranger but that of someone close, someone entrusted to protect and serve. The scars ran deeper than I could have ever imagined, the wounds of betrayal far more agonizing than any physical pain. In the aftermath, I sought refuge in solitude, surrounded by the fragments of a life torn apart. The fear that once consumed me now became a companion, a reminder of the darkness that lurked within the human psyche. I became a ghost, forever haunted by the echoes of the stalker's presence, forever burdened by the knowledge that evil can take on many forms. The story of the stalker lives on, whispered in hushed tones among those who dare to speak of it. The tale serves as a cautionary reminder that safety is an illusion, that the line between predator and prey can blur with terrifying ease. And in the depths of the night, as the shadows lengthen, the chilling refrain echoes, "I will always be watching."